My name's Duddy, so I builds and stuff. Today I've got a Felwinter's Helm build, Stasis warlock. I've got absolutely loads to show you. This build is absolutely brilliant. Dominates everything. Loads of Stasis fragments to show you. And I'm also going to show you some really cool weapons like Choir of One, Buried Bloodline. But if you stay with me for the full video, I'm also going to show you some tips and tricks with Conditional finality and repulsor brace, how to get the maximum benefit from Felwinter's Stasis build, chaining your Iceflare bolts and getting free repulsor brace just by the weakening effects from Felwinter's Helm, chaining your Iceflare bolts with Conditional finality, destroying things, infinite Devour with seasonal artifact perks and Buried Bloodline, free overshields. Stay with me, this build's a monster. The main part of the build, obviously the Felwinter's Helm, powered melee final blows create a burst of energy that weakens nearby targets, finishes and final blows against more powerful combatants, make the radius and the burst of the length of the weakening effects improved, higher tier enemies improve that burst and the radius. So this is basically what it does. You get a finisher, everything around that target is debuffed by a massive 30%, but we've got total carnage and some other seasonal artifact perks. After finishing a combatant, you gain temporary damage resistance, proximity ward on your class item, so you got safe finishers with the proximity ward. It will give you an overshield and damage reduction when you use your finisher. So just to show you, basically round it up, you're going to debuff them by 30%. You've got resistance and an overshield. Now, power from pain, rapid final blows against weakened combatants, granting you Devour. We'll go into the second part in a moment, but we're going to be able to get free Devour on this because everything's weakened. Rapid final blows, watch the bottom left, you're going to see my Devour proc. Couple of kills, you've got Devour going on a Stasis subclass without Buried Bloodline. So, an all-round buff for the Felwinter's Helm with them. So, this is why I wanted to focus on this part of the sort of helmet first, because the seasonal artifact perks, everything you've seen, this actually busts Felwinter's Helm out. This little segment of the video, 30% debuff, Devour, weakening on tap. This bottom part of power from pain, boost, rapidly defeating weakened combatants, also spawns a void breach. We can also take advantage of the supernova, picking up a void breach, cause your next source of void damage to create a weakening pulse. So we're going to get Devour, weakening, Devour on tap like I said, just by getting a couple of kills after that finish, because they're all debuffed, and you'll see I'll spawn a void breach, which will then make my next void source of damage also create weakening, which is just going to extend the fact that I can just get Devour on tap. Now don't forget, 30% is Felwinter's. The weakening pulse will only be 15% from the void breach from the supernova. Concussive reload, just another way of weakening with our grenade launchers, just to keep that weakening sort of theme going. Loads of different ways of weakening, loads of different ways to suppress your enemies, because it doesn't suppress, sorry, it makes them like dizzy as well, the Felwinters, so it makes them irrelevant, so they don't really do anything to you. It's only enemies at a further distance that will bother you, but the damage reduction from that finisher seasonal artifact perk helps in that situation. Obviously, you've got things like Buried Bloodline, which we'll go into, but next I just want to show you some key aspects. Iceflare bolts, shattering frozen targets, spawn seekers that track and freeze other nearby targets. This is by far the best aspect paired with frostpulse on this particular build. Casting your rift generates a shockwave that freezes combatants. These two just work perfectly together. I've tried all sorts of different setups, and these two are by far the best for Felwinter's, because you're going to have total control with your finishers and total control from your Iceflare bolts and your frostpulse. This is just a little clip of them all working together. Absolute control for you and your teammates. Really, really strong. And on top of that, again, you've got that finisher as well for more control. It just makes things irrelevant. Hail the Storm is an excellent seasonal artifact perk as well to pair with this. The boost version of this really puts out some serious damage, shattering frozen targets and stasis crystals, deals increased damage. Everything's frozen in this build from your Iceflare bolts and your frostpulse, so you're just going to deal loads and loads of damage, like from the shattering effects with this seasonal artifact perk. and everything else you've got going on, it just feels absolutely fantastic. So much control, so much damage, and the main thing with this as well, it's really good for your solo play and really good for your teammates as well. Because the other thing I haven't really mentioned just yet, because of all the slowing and freezing that you're doing, and the like the weakening effects from the Felwinters, especially the stasis debuffs that you're applying. If you've got a teammates running Arc and Void, they're going to be able to take advantage of the stasis debuffs on their subclasses as well from the Cosmic Conductive Crystal. But once you've got everything sort of going on, you've literally in total control, and the blast radius, that radius from that finisher from the Felwinters, is absolutely crazy when you get into some like majors and minors finishing things like that. The radius on it is absolutely ridiculous. Everything's frozen, everything's weakened around the target. It's just absolute domination, so much control. And then again, you've got Devour going on tap pretty much infinitely, whether you just use Devour on the bloodline, buried bloodline, you can proc that, or you can use the seasonal artifact perks that we've talked about, and it's just a freezing after freezing. Now, Buried Bloodline obviously is an excellent choice, but it's got a violent reanimation on there, where multiple final blows will grant Devour to the wielder. While Devour is active, you're going to apply Awakening. Choir of One is absolutely great for this as well, especially the destabilising rounds retrofit. That with the Shatter effects is really good. And the good thing about Choir of One is when you hip fire it, that's going to kill things really quick, and it actually pairs perfectly with Felwinters, because you get in there, get your finisher, hip fire, get your Devour procced, and it just feels absolutely brilliant. Choir of One. So there's just one other option as well as the Buried Bloodline, but I've got some really quirky little tips to show you as well in a few minutes. Surrounded weapons, something like the Yaravit is really good. Any surrounded weapons, this is what I would personally focus on. But the good thing with this is it actually works really good with the super, the Iceflare bolts and the frostpulse. Especially the Iceflare bolts, the shade band, the super, it really does enhance it, because everything just gets frozen. You freeze anyway with that, but them Iceflare bolts are just going to chain up to like 15 meters away, 20 meters away. It's just crazy. So it really does help the actual shade binder super as well. So just sort of like a little roundup, what you've got, you've obviously, and I keep saying it, all the freezing effects from the Iceflare bolts, the frost pulse, finishers on tap, the radius on it is absolutely ridiculous. You're applying 30% weakening for you and your teammates, which is the same as tractor cannon. You're obviously applying a crap ton of stasis debuffs for you and your teammates as well. Just get up close, get finishers, surrounded weapons are really top notch for this as well. I've got a chill inhibitor with surrounded, I was using the SMG with surrounded, but there's loads and loads of weapons, and it's just an absolute doddle. Get up close, safe finishers, infinite weakening, infinite Devour on tap. Now, I'm just going to quickly show my fragments and aspects again. Iceflare bolts, which we've already touched on. Frost pulse, which we've already touched on. The grenade of choice, I like Cold Snap because it's fast and it's quick and it freezes instantaneously. We've obviously only got the Penumbral Mass Melee, but this is pretty good as well. Whisper of Rending, primary ammo weapons to increase damage to stasis crystals. 42% plus any weakening, and surrounded on top of that is just a joke. Whisper of Fissures, this increases the damage in the size and the burst of stasis when you destroy a stasis crystal or a frozen target. Now the next one is absolutely perfect for Frost Pulse. Whisper of Refraction, defeating slowdown frozen combatants grants you class ability. This Neron gives you infinite class ability, infinite Frost Pulse, infinite freezing, which procs your Iceflare bolts. And then finally, Whisper of Hedrons, this dramatically increases weapon stability, aim assist, mobility and resilience. Really good. You've literally got this up all the time because again, everything's bloody frozen. I did a couple of wave 50s with this build on expert, different maps, and it's really strong. I could have just showed you loads of clips of me on Onslaught, but what I wanted to do was show you some more clips of different setups. Now, this is where it gets really cool. Paracausal pellets on the conditional finality. This freezes and the solo one ignites, but the freezes from the conditional finality will actually proc your Iceflare bolts. Obviously there's other weapons that freeze in game, things like Cryophagia, Verglass Curve, but I found Conditional really nice with this particular build, and what you'll see here as well, watch my top of the screen. Got an overshield, void overshield, they've recently got buffed. You can take advantage of the weakening effects of Felwinters with repulsor brace. Repulsor brace weapons will give you an overshield from avoid debuff targets. Any weapon with repulsor brace works nicely. Specifically, something like surrounded repulsor brace weapons. Big shout out to one of my swords that I really like to use the chivalric fire, but you'll see in this clip. Extended Iceflare bolts, weakening, kill them weakened targets. You've got your Devour going on, look at that, and I've got an overshield, all from finishing, and it's just absolutely perfect together. And again, the only thing that really bothers you with this build is the stuff that's at a distance. That's the only problem with it, if I was going to say a problem with it. But there's like various different encounters where you can get right up close, like in this sort of beginning part of Lost Sectors and things like that, and you can take total control of quite a lot of situations with all the freezing and all the debuffing. It's really good for yourself and it's really good for your teammates. And don't forget, the freezing from Stasis is absolutely great for quite a lot of champions in the game, unstoppable overloads, and it just stops damage instantaneously. All these Iceflare bolts going on, so it's just an absolutely all-round great build. Now, because of the 30% debuff from Felwinter's Helm, I didn't really build into weapon synergies. I just built into grenade kickstart on my arm. Stacks on stacks. Every time I picked up an orb, you're getting 2 armor charges that give me a constant supply of my grenade kickstart. The rest of the fragments and aspects, everything else that you've seen, I'm going to put in this little clip here. The build cards will be back tomorrow. My friend's out of town today who does the build cards for me, but I'll leave that for you. I will also leave a dim link in the video description too. So let me know what you think of this video. Let me know what you think of this build. I tried a few different ones. I tried it on prismatic, but I just think the Iceflare bolts and the frostpulse working together is just an absolutely great combination with the sort of finishing from the Felwinter's Helm. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.